Welcome to IAB Canada's podcast, The Business of Digital.
Within hours.
Good morning, and thanks for joining us. Today, I have the distinct pleasure of sitting with Alan Sifuentes, the General Manager of Digital at Adapt and Chameleon Digital Media, as well as Laura Maurice, the Senior Vice President of Sales at Adapt and Chameleon Digital Media. Good morning.
Good morning.
And thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having us. We're excited to be here.
Yeah, so there's a lot going on in the industry, and despite the fact that we are heading into a long weekend after a beautiful summer, there's been a lot of developments in the industry, and today specifically I wanted to pick your brains a little bit about things like location-based advertising and some of the interesting developments that have been taking place at Adapt and Chameleon Digital. Why don't we start by just simply asking the question of what gets you really excited about the way technology and data is now converging into newer products for consumers as well as for businesses to better reach one another. What are you excited about?
So one of the things that I'm very excited about, because I've been working with location data for the last 2.5 years, and historically it has been just media retargeting, creating segments for people. But now I feel that we are entering into new industries, like helping out-of-home companies to understand attribution, to understand the impact of campaigns, working with real estate companies, construction, building companies to understand their audiences. There is a lot more that we use location data for. Even working with activation companies to understand where they should be putting pop-up shops in the city, or how to staff those shops based on traffic in specific areas. Mm-hmm. So now it's not just advertising; it's much more.
Amazing. So there's do you think that there's a lessening gap between marketing data and media data? Is that kind of what we're at right now, or what we're looking at?
I think
from that perspective,
more than a gap, I feel like it's such a powerful source of data that, the way I usually explain it is like with working in digital as well for the last 5 years. There is so much that you can learn from online behavior, mm-hmm. while when you put location or real life behavior into the mix, you'll learn a lot more. It's sometimes people can be very careful of the types of websites that they visit, or they don't say their life exactly how they use on internet, mm-hmm. while based on the locations that they visit or where do they spend their time, it tells you a lot more about mm-hmm. people. That's something that can be useful for not just for advertising, but for a lot of business solutions.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So like it really has a definitive indicator of, for instance, repeat visits to a restaurant or repeat visits to a particular location, and can also be, obviously interconnected and merged with other media practices. And Laura, do you see any interesting developments? Have there been any interesting opportunities that Chameleon's been taking advantage of on this front?
Yeah, I think that we're just on the forefront of people really understanding how to use the data and the benefits of ingesting that data into their business practices. I historically come from the agency side, so I'm used to doing print buying, at-home buying, digital buying. But when you are able to marry it all together, it tells a completely different story. So I think for us right now, it's really exciting just talking to brands about the use cases of that data and how to marry it with traditional out-of-home products. And I've only been with Adapt and Chameleon for about 10 months, and so that's what attracted me to the company, was to marry that together and really tell a different story out there, and not just work with agencies and brands direct, but also work with vendors and the supplier side, because I think there's a real need for how to understand and use this all together.
And are you when you're working with agencies and with the buy side in general, are you doing a lot of training? So are you having a lot of discussions around how this is done, or do you feel that there's already a good understanding of how to do it? It's just that the tools haven't necessarily been available, or is it a bit of both?
I think it's a bit of both. Everybody's going in really cautiously and doing a lot of testing with a lot of different suppliers, which is fair. We're in this world right now where everybody wants to test, and then refine, and then dive in. So I think for the most part, everybody's kind of feeling this, but yeah, just test stage right now.
And I understand you guys have been doing some really interesting partnerships. Why don't you shed some light on that? Like, what's the most recent development that you've embarked on in this front?
I can talk pretty high level about that, if that's okay.
Okay,
but
sure.
So yeah, we've been kind of diving in outside of the industry and really looking at associations that have a lot of members that could use the data in different capacities. So that's really been our focus, and really becoming a perk partner, if you will, with associations and how they can consume our data, and we really become a resource for them and a partner versus just a supplier. We really want to go out and educate and help people understand the value behind marrying it with what they've been traditionally doing.
Oh, and what does that look like? What kind of associations? Do you want to give an example, or can you not?
Associations like in the real estate sector, in food and drink sector. We've also been talking to a lot of event spaces that have multiple partners that use their space.
Neat. So verticals, diving into verticals.
That's right.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
And not just with associations, but I feel like we are closing the gap or bridging all these different media sources or media industries. For so long, we have been working in silos like digital media, out-of-home, broadcast. And because digital, there's a lot of data that you can pull, like post-campaign, a lot of analytics. We are trying to build something like that can provide the same level or depth of analytics for all the other media suppliers. How is your out-of-home campaign performing? How is your direct mailing campaign performing? We are even exploring how location data can provide another level of analytics to broadcast or to radio. Trying to unify all of these strategies, so a media buyer or even a brand can see how all the campaigns complement each other, instead of thinking like, oh, because I've been doing billboards all over the city, but at the end of the day, people are buying my products online. Should I put more money online, or it's actually the billboards are actually working? So I feel like using data, not just location, but there are other sources of data, can help media buyers and brands to understand the impact of advertising and their marketing efforts.
That's great. It sounds like you're really doing some work in cracking that holy grail of an integrated dashboard, right? So, and I think that that's something that obviously has been elusive. I mean, as a media planner as well, over the past 21 years, it's been a pain trying to consolidate the data and trying to normalize it. So it's not often that you get a new phenomena like location-based data that can stream in and connect so many dots that we weren't able to connect before.
And in real time, which is exciting for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you done any major investments or partnerships, or is there anything that has been on the horizon for Chameleon Digital?
So that's kind of what is pretty cool about it, because like you say, the holy grail, it's a common goal. Everybody would love to see something like that happen.
Right.
So it's easy to us to approach businesses, approach competitors and say, hey, we have this idea that can benefit you, can benefit us. Let's try to think about how we can apply this type of data with your data, your own sources of data, and combine them to trying to find this refined product. So yeah, we have been partnering with other data companies, even competitors in the out-of-home space, competitors in the digital space, visualization platforms. I'm exploring some broadcast companies, so trying to first to understand what are the needs of all these different businesses. What do they want to? What is the final goal of them? And from that, trying to refine the product to make sure that it fits. It's a good fit for all these different industries. Mm-hmm. So for partnerships, there are many of them. But what's interesting is that either similar companies or even competitors are being part of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, interesting. You had mentioned something about Uber in previous discussions. Do you want to talk a little bit about what's going on with your product development there?
Sure.
Yeah.
Uber Media is our partner in the U.S. They are not. It's not the car company, but it's a global data company that tracks mobile devices. So we've partnered with them for the last 3 years, and they are really great at feeding us what we need and really tweaking what the industry needs here in Canada specifically. So we do training for our clients on a regular basis. They have 60 developers, 40 polygoners, they call them down there. So we have a lot of support for new developments that our clients need, vendor or agency side or brand direct. And so, yeah, we are transparent. We can have Uber on the phone at any point to help brands sort of develop what they need.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what is really cool about this partnership is that, and what I like to work with them is because they are not a media company. They don't have that media mindset. They are data first. Mm-hmm. So they develop this product, like trying to, not good enough just to do a conversion or an acquisition campaign. They develop this product to help all these different industries, not just the media industry. So that's one of the reasons that they partner with us. We are like the media arm of them. Mm-hmm. But it's kind of refreshing to jump in the phone with them and doing brainstorming. And they have such a different view of the way the data they are. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they're purist in the way they treat data, which I like that. They really take data very seriously. And it makes me get more excited about the product I'm working with, because I know that it's a very refined data source that we are working with.
And they are all about privacy, which, is pretty much the number one question that comes up all the time. Right. Is, how do you scrub that data? How do we know it's good for our client and all of that? And so, we are able to provide all of the background information, white papers, you name it, on how it's compliant globally, not just within Canada.
Amazing. So they've already reached sort of the GDPR compliance and all that sort of stuff.
Absolutely.
Amazing. And that's so critical. And one of the things that the IAB has been working a lot on globally, we just launched datalabel.org, and I'm not sure whether you've seen this, but it's basically a tool that allows data buyers, right? Because we're kind of entering into data buying as opposed to just media buying now. But it allows data buyers to get a better understanding of the different qualifiers around data that they are purchasing. So things like recency, things like whether or not it was consented, things like, what are some of the different, if you're going to create a segment for automotive intenders, what is your definition around auto intenders? That type of thing. And the idea of it is not to go through a process of ranking ranking and grading and allowing people to sort of, make, sort of like star rating choices, but more just make informed choices and informed choices.
I love that.
Yeah, and it's I find it's a really great move forward for the industry, because it's not really. I mean, in a way, you could say that it's self-regulating, right? Because you're self-regulating quality without policing it. Right?
So you're standardizing it.
You're standardizing it, but in a way that also allows for the flexibility of innovation a little bit, which is something that,
That's great.
Yeah, and it's been very well received, and it's almost like just looking at the side of a cereal box. And a lot of the stuff that IAB is doing, actually, when you think back now and in speaking with you guys about this whole idea of, flexibility and how people are moving towards these integrated sort of views on how to purchase media. Historically, we've been doing standards, as in cookie cutter, here's sort of ad units and here's what's available for sale. And since we moved to sort of, flexible advertising units to combat viewability issues and all that sort of stuff, it's really opened the door to really interesting discussions and innovation. And I wonder from, I guess my next question to you both is, do you feel that there's a lot of room for innovation in this next era when you're looking at location-based data, when you're looking at how it integrates with some of the other traditional media channels? Or do you think it's just sort of like another, I don't know, like just I hate to say fad, but I just wonder, what do you think is the future of innovation in this space? Is there a lot of room?
Yeah, there's still a lot of room for innovation. There's a lot to be done, and I feel like, for example, I love the way IAB is approaching things, like it's trying to have a forward thinking, and because that's the way things are changing. Not just the advertising world, the world in general is changing. Now that you're coming back a little bit to the privacy concern, like there are two ways to react. You can react, or you can be proactive to the way things are happening. People being concerned about their privacy can be a threat for some businesses or some industries, but it can also be an opportunity. This is just going to be better in my mind, because now, for example, in the location space, to answer your question, like apps are going to get better. Now there's still a lot of apps that they are collecting your data in the background without you knowing, and now apps will have to innovate, create reasons to collect your data, compelling reasons, because to let you know we are going to collect your data, but because we are going to offer you this feature, do you accept? And once we collect your data, this is what we're going to do with it. And I feel like if you give the control to the user, or they know what their data is being used for, they will be more open to that. More open.
Transparency is going to be the future for sure.
Exactly, and with that, better apps would mean like more precise data, or different ways to collect data that can only help the industry.
Yeah, I mean, with transparency comes the notion of, well, it better be damn good.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
So you better be offering me something good. So I think it's natural selection then that if you're not offering something that's worthwhile, maybe this is a self-weeding process, like a Darwinian thing,
right?
Where bad business models are just going to get eliminated
100%.
Based on consumer choice, which is not a bad thing.
That's how, like you say, all the fat is gonna go away, because you better do an excellent product, or you don't, or you are out of conversation.
Yeah.
And for innovation, I don't know what else is gonna be there, but as I say, like you either wait until something happens and then you react, or you try to be proactive and try new things and try to do a better product, a better service.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we talk a lot about this idea of, just because you can doesn't mean you should type of thing, and how ethics sometimes needs to take a few steps, ahead of the chess game, before regulation catches up.
Agreed.
It's like, do we really need to have the, packaging on, certain, I liken it to certain packages that you open up and there's warnings and you're like, what?
Yeah.
Who would ever think to eat a wine glass?
Yeah.
Like what? Like, not edible. Like, so there's this gap or there's lagging sometimes of regulation where it's just like, okay, well, you've abused the system enough to the point where we now have to regulate. Mm-hmm. And usually when regulation comes, it's heavy-handed and it's not as informed as one would like it to be.
Yeah.
Which is in some cases, Castle is a great example of that. When email advertising, we just completely abused it as an industry.
Yep.
And then the heavy hand of Castle came down. And, its tentacles started reaching into areas that were actually not necessarily just related to a spammy inbox, right? So hopefully, with guidance of thought leaders like yourselves, we can avoid abuse of location-based data. And right, so it's almost like you need masters guiding the media planning community and the buying community to make sure that people understand, it's available, but you may not want to do that.
Yeah, and we try to have those conversations with brands too. Brands will approach us and they'll say, I really want to do X, Y, and Z, and we're like, this isn't a great fit. So we want to make sure that we are also educating brands and agencies and partners to the best of our ability too, because we don't want to be on the forefront of dragging people down the wrong path and going into this whole thing just like Castle or whatnot. So
totally,
yeah,
responsible growth of the industry.
That's right.
We're all in it together.
We are in it together.
Because if people start abusing just because they can, there's gonna be always an entity that will come and say stop. And then it's going to disrupt the industry. So it's better to grow responsibly and make sure that what you're doing is for the benefit of everybody at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. Well, I can't think of a better note to end on, and I wanted to thank you both, Laura and Alan, for being here this morning in sunny Toronto, heading into Labor Day weekend. So we really appreciate your thoughts, your insights, and we really look forward to further developments from Chameleon Digital Media, and let's see where this goes.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for joining us on IAB Canada's podcast, The Business of Digital.